What up, roomies? Tonight's guest is someone who spent more than 2 decades helping people understand how the body can heal itself naturally. Dr. Aaron Chapa is a holistic health expert, clinical nutritionist, and a wellness advocate who specializes in natural detoxification, nutrition, and restoring the body's energy from the inside out. After losing his father to a sudden heart attack, Dr. Chapa has begun questioning the conventional medical system and dedicating his life to studying how nutrition, lifestyle, and detox pathways impact our health and at the cellular level. Today, he helps people around the country take control of their health using natural approaches instead of relying on solely on medications. Tonight, we're diving into detox, food as medicine, and why he believes true healing starts within. Dr. Chapa, welcome to Neighbors.
My man. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be with your audience, man. This is exciting, and I truly am an advocate for health and wellness and vitality, and teaching people how to live better, be better, stay better, one bite at a time, baby. Yeah.
I feel you, bro. I feel you. And thank you for being on. I know the roomies is gonna love it because we cover a whole array of topics here. And the one thing that I really do promote on this podcast is, positivity, wellness. And I'm getting myself healthy, so I'm gonna be promoting a lot more health. You know what I mean?
Man, well, you know what? Always rule number one I've always learned is never ask people or patients to do things I wasn't willing to do. So, one thing people can count on with me is that I live this life. I've been actively, like you said, over 2 decades, but really my journey started when I was 15 years old and I was 55 pounds overweight myself, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, on my way to diabetes. I remember the days where I would literally roll up tortillas with butter and sugar cranked in the middle of it, and I
Damn.
would just eat that. And that was like a dessert. It was so awesome. Um, so I guess I always joke around. I tell people like my right leg is Mexican because I'm only a quarter Mexican, and my grandfather was full blood, 6'4", beautiful Mexican man. He went off and married a white lady, and my dad went off and married a white lady. And so there's only a quarter Mexican in my right leg, but that loves tortillas and it loves tacos.
Listen. As long as you know the culture, it doesn't matter the percentage. You are
That's
Mexican. That's it. You
That's
are
right.
you are a Latino, bro, my brother. You are a
Yes.
Latino.
There you go. There you go. So
You know,
yeah, so I look back and the doctors literally took me off of eggs. They took me off of bacon. They scared my parents in that I was going to be setting up for cardiovascular disease at a young age. And, I just followed suit. My parents did what they were told to do. And that is the current age, modern, food diet, 6 to 11 servings of grains a day is the foundation of today's diet. Water is not even on the modern food pyramid that was,
yep.
well, it was replaced in this recently, but the old pyramid that I grew up on didn't even have water as a base. And so when we look at food as medicine, people never do what they want to do. They only do what they know how to do.
That's true.
And so a lot of people don't make the lifestyle changes just because they don't know how or where to start. And so my world is where to start. How do we get people on path? And so when I was 15 years old, this girl made fun of me and called me fat, the F word. And as a 15-year-old hormonal kid, you can imagine that was pretty hurtful to the old ego, to the psyche, to the confidence. And man, it crushed me, if I'm just being honest. It was like that whole saying that says sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I
Yeah, they
didn't,
lied about that one. But
they lied about
believe me when I tell you this, I've always been overweight I want to say my entire life, but you know, I would say from like the age of like 14, 15 to like even to today, I've always been like a heavy dude. So I know exactly where you're coming from when it comes to like, people talking shit about your weight and throwing that in your face. But I don't know. To me, I've never seen it as, except for like when it comes to like my true health,
that. Yeah.
when it comes to like confidence and all that, I've always been able to like, gather my confidence and just, put myself out there. I've never had like trouble with the ladies. The ladies love a big guy.
Yeah, that's right. For sure. For sure. And look, for me, I think that it was just it caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And I literally and at 15, again, hormones were raging, dude. Who knows, right? I literally, I got, dressed in the locker room, and I literally just walked right outside the back of the school. I didn't even check out, walked home. And, I looked myself in the mirror and said, Chop, what are we going to do to fix this? How are we going to make sure no one ever makes fun of us again, especially the ladies? You know what I mean?
Yup.
And in one summer, I cleared off all sugar out of my diet that was liquid. So that would be like your Kool-Aids and Gatorades and Powerades and juice boxes and colas and this is and that, anything, sweet teas. I mean, I cleared it all. And no one told me to do that. It was just a very instinctual thing. I always just say, God always knew this was my calling. It was going to be able to help people, and it had to start there.
And God
And
bless, because getting rid of, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have a hard time giving up like juices and sodas.
yeah,
So yeah.
well,
Like
here,
with food, with food, I find it a lot easier to like take carbs out or to take like processed sugars out of my diet. But when it comes to like juices and like sodas, I'm like, damn, bro.
yeah, well, yeah, and here's the deal: nothing below our taste buds wants it. Think about that
Yeah.
for a second. So, like when you go internal and you go deep cellular, you start to realize, oh wow, wait a second. I'm not just if food is not pleasure, food is fuel. Do we sometimes use food as pleasure at a party, at an event, at a celebration? Sure, fine. However, never in societal history have we had so much access to sugar. Like, just give me a guess. How much do you think per person a person today is consuming in the form of sugar, and that's pounds per person in today's modern world? Sugar.
Like in a year or like in a day?
Yeah, in a year.
In a year, I would say anywhere from like 30 to like 50 solid pounds of sugar in a year.
Yeah, so that's a good guess. It's higher. Go higher.
Nah. What,
Yeah,
like 100 pounds?
go higher.
200?
150 pounds per
Jesus
person
Christ.
per year. Now check this out. That's only, okay, that's only in the form of bread, rice, cereal, pasta, potatoes, corn, things that convert to sugar. That doesn't even count when you throw on cookies, candies, cakes, ice cream, sodas. All of a sudden, the
Mm.
number does bounce in the 250s to 300 pounds per person per year. And so now we just take a step back and go, where has that ever happened in society? And so now we have to start asking a question, like, what is driving such behavior? Well, it's money. They figured out that if they can get you, and they being the Rand Corporation, Cola Corporation, Lay's potato chips, all these, they figured out they can get you buying their product by 9 years old. You would be addicted to their product for life. That means if you're a Miracle Whip person versus a Heinz 57 person versus whatever flavor of a cola that you're drinking, you're going to, if they can get you drinking it, eating it, consuming it by 9 years old, you'll be addicted for life. Isn't that interesting?
No, that's a big fact, because kids, when you give a kid a little cup of soda, that's it. It's a wrap. The floodgates are open. They want that. They want it all the time. They're like, let me get that.
Yes,
But
right.
I could
And
see,
it's like
but
crack.
I could see how it translates over to when you're an adult as well. Because yet again, going back to like my own issue, I have a problem with like juices and sodas. Like, I love juices and sodas. Like, I love flavored liquids. Even though I
Yeah.
know my body doesn't want it, I'm addicted to it. I'm not even gonna lie.
Which will then that takes me to my like next part of like when I'm working with people, one of the things that drives that is bugs. So I always say, oh, that's the bugs talking. That's yeast, that's parasites, that's bacteria, that's virus. So these things, there's a great book that I read many years ago, and I've kind of referenced it back and forth over the years because it is such a good book. It's very thick, it's a little sciencey, but the stories that she starts to share in the book are, it's called The Body's, Your Brain on Parasites. And it is fascinating how bugs, yeast, parasites, bacteria, viruses can manipulate the organism, the host, into eating certain things. Like you will, if you went on a no sugar diet right this second, like if you just said, I'm going to do that starting tomorrow, right? You'd be fine for about 3 days. It's like the third day, things start to kick in that, oh crap, this is serious.
Yeah, the crash. Yeah.
The bugs start going nuts. And then about 14 days in, you're going to want to chew your arm off. About 30 days in, your cheeks are going to be like, you're going to be like just inkling, it's like, and so what's happening is the bugs are beginning to mobilize because they go, oh crap, there's no food. Like where I got to find food. I got to stimulate. And they know how to put off endorphins of things that make you comfortable. There's psychology in our brain that has what's called a metabolic set point. So if you lost 30 pounds right now, your body would fight you potentially losing 35 pounds. And a lot of this is why we see so much rebounding. So there's so much more than just simply getting off sugar. Now, at 15 years old, for me, I had the advantage of what? Stem cells. I had the advantage of youth. I had the advantage that I hadn't poisoned my body for 35, 40 years. It had all kinds of metabolic disorders, and I wasn't, medicated to the hilt like we see today. So I was talking to this other veteran counselor just the other day, just out for a walk, one of my neighbors. And okay, so now we know sugar, by the way, if it was introduced into our society today, it would be a known controlled substance.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So just hold on to that, right? So that is a drug then, essentially. So talking to this veteran counselor who helps people with addictions and getting them off of painkillers and all that stuff. So guess the number of medications that he works with 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds, just those populations. How many medicines are they on?
Hundreds of thousands.
No, prescriptions. Just how many products, how many prescriptive drugs?
Ooh. And this is just pertaining to like sugar addiction or addiction across the board?
All addiction. This is also anything psychological. This is depression, anxiety. This is
I would say like probably a few hundred.
No, well, so medications, like it'd be like if Zoloft, Xanax. How many different? It's not a few hundred. It'd be like 17, right? So the average is 17 medications a person's taking. So they could be taking.
Oh, you mean per person? I thought you meant how many medications he has at his disposal. Your friend.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. So this is prescribed to him for whatever medical ail he's dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, so now we've got sugar as a known, controlled substance that we have unlimited access to, unbridled. We have you right now at 40 years old could go and get access to 17, 20 medications. All you got to do is just stay in that system long enough, and it perpetuates more disease, more dis-ease, more symptoms, more chaos inside of our bodies, because you're trying to manipulate something that was designed by God to function on its own. And now we're manipulating it with sugar. We're manipulating it with medications. And so what happens is we're overdosing. So then I asked him the same question. I said, okay, so that's 40 or 50-year-olds. They're on 17 medications. So what about 20-year-olds? Like, where's the number shift? Because I know there's young 20s that get addicted to stuff and deal with life issues. And it's literally 8 medications. He goes, so these are people he's working with. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's mind blowing. And I knew it was up there, but I didn't know it was that for that youth. And so he said, even at 2 to 5 medications for your 14-year-old population. And I'm like, what? Lord. So yes. So these are all this span of patients that he works with. So then I go into my own practice and I go, there's doctors recommending antacids to infants. Antacids, like a stomach reducing acid pill, because they have colic, or they have reflux, or they're not digesting well. Which is when I teach patients about food. So we look at food as medicine, and medicine as food. We start there. But if you can't digest your food, you can't absorb your food. So if you take a baby who should be on mommy's milk, right? Yeah. Breast milk, okay, not formula, but breast milk, and you put fake food in that child and they're colicky, and then we put antacids in their stomach and destroy digestion at the stomach level. They're vulnerable to parasites. They're vulnerable to yeast. They're vulnerable to bacteria. They're more vulnerable to anything they're eating that is a foreign substrate that now they've lowered their defenses. And babies, up until their 26th month of age, they already have a permeable gut lining. So
Mhm.
things are penetratable across their gut lining, and that's why they need mommy's milk.
Yeah.
And so as they mature, that gut lining seals and heals and gets tighter, and it begins to function like it was designed to. But we're destroying, and this is why this is such an important conversation, because if I feed you right, but you can't digest it, you'll never absorb it. And if you can't absorb it, you'll never get healthy from it. But if your digestion is wrecked from the time these little babies are babies, or these lives are
Yeah.
babies, then by the time they're 14, it doesn't shock us anymore that they've been heavily medicated their whole life. Antibiotics, steroids, vaccines, all these different things. All right.
No, I
And,
get that.
and then that continues to perpetuate into their 20s. And now they're up around, 8 to 12 meds. And then up into their 40s. Now they're on 17 meds. I mean, this is, huge.
No, I get that. So what was really crazy is just like the amount of kids that are on like three, what was it, 2 to 5, you said, medications.
Yes. Well, so the 14-year-olds. Yeah.
Yeah, like the 14-year-old group, 2 to 5 medications, right?
Yeah.
I
Which
would
is,
excuse me. I
yeah.
would think like, when you're going through puberty and you're changing from adolescent to an adult, that's when your body would be like at its peak performance, because it's going through this metamorphosis. You know what I mean? So it's like, just to hear the fact that this group is that heavily medicated for, I'm pretty sure it's a whole bunch of preventable things as well, probably like pre-diabetes, high cholesterol, um over being, overweight and all that stuff. Like, I'm
And
pretty sure.
anxiety, depression, yeah. But you're right. That is the vulnerable season of life. Their hormones are shifting, and so you would expect them to be a little bit crazy, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
they're working through it, and that's where parenting comes in, and we support them through it. Like I know my daughter's period cycles better than they do. I can tell because I pay attention and I've asked them enough questions where they're at in cycle time. I can tell even when my son is having a little bit of a funk, and he's, he's a little athlete, but I can tell when he's dipping, and it's hormone are doing crazy things even in the males. Like, so, it's always the girls that are having these fluxes. Oh no, man, dudes are as fickle as the ladies. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I got you on that. I got you.
And
No, we are.
supporting the body is essentially a necessary tool. And what's the number one support that our bodies need every day?
Food and water.
Food and water, baby. Come on. And so, I mean, I did tell somebody today, probably air, oxygen is probably the most important
Yeah,
nutrient.
yeah,
Remember when
yeah.
you were
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
choked out by your cousin, that
Yeah,
was
yeah. That's the most important thing. But
probably the most important thing. But the second close would be, in that food department. But then I even took it a step further, and I said, look, it's not just, the air. The next thing would be sleep. If I can make sure a person's getting good air quality and good sleep, you could go up to 40 days. I mean, Jesus made it 40 days with no food and water, or I don't know if it was no water, but no food, right?
yeah,
So
I don't think I don't think you could go more than like, more than a few days without water.
it's actually, you can go a little longer than that, and people have done, extended dry fast. But to your point, it's definitely stressful for the body.
Yeah,
But food is 40 days. We've seen that done, and but we go, okay. Well, then what's the third thing? I'd be like, well, it'd probably be like sunlight, and then the fourth thing would be food. But the interesting thing about food is this: what you eat's important, but what you don't eat is more important, and that's really where I started to discover when I pulled sugar out of my diet, and if I can get somebody strong enough to get off of sugar. And again, it isn't, hey, I need you to go get off of sugar. That doesn't work. You have to
yeah,
put the infrastructure in place for a person who's deficient in vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids. You got to put infrastructure in to support their immune system so that when those bugs go crazy, they can manage it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, I
And
got you
so,
100%.
and that is, there's so many cool critical pieces that you and me are capable of managing so that when we make a lifestyle change, it sticks. And that's the game, is setting people up for success, not just dictating, hey, I need you to, eat this pristine diet. Because to your point, I mean, you live in New York. I mean, are you really going to never eat a New York pizza? Exactly.
Exactly. No, but everything is in moderation though. Like I do have a saying that kind of like goes against what you said earlier, and I've always said this to my one of my old coworkers. Food is the first and last pleasure a human has, and I always said that because like you don't have to like everything. Like I said before, everything's in moderation. So, but when you want to eat good, eat good. Don't limit yourself. Just eat good. I'm not talking about like gorge out or pig out. But if you're gonna eat well, eat well, eat what you want.
Yeah.
Don't just like limit yourself to say, oh, because I'm on a diet or whatever. Oh, I'm not gonna eat this, but it's just this one time. Like, go ahead and enjoy it, but don't overconsume.
And again, that is awesome as long as the person understands the parameters of what overconsume really means. And
Yeah,
again, going back to that statement, if let's just say it's 100 pounds per person per year of the sugar, right?
yeah,
That's a ton. Even the American Heart Association, which I am not a fan of, understands that sugar is driving cardiovascular disease. And by the
yeah,
way, the American Heart Association has been in business for 100 years as of 2025, right? But yet
yeah,
they still lead the charge in most common death rate in cardiovascular disease in the country. So I always like to say, like, how do you suck at your job and stay in business for 100 years? You know what I mean?
yeah. We
Now,
all know what we all know why, but
right. But again, to your point, it is moderation. But again, if we know what, if you and me, we're smart enough to know that if that is a known poison, we would probably not consume it. Like, you know what I mean? Like panda bears only eat 3 types of bamboo, even though they have all that roughage that they have access to in Australia. Why is that?
yeah,
Because they know their digestive system, if poisoned, that's their lifeline. And
yeah,
so it's interesting. I gotta think about, food being your first and last pleasure. Because again, I really do fundamentally like say nothing below your taste buds wants it. So it's your first pleasure, but it's definitely not a it is definitely not a, I don't know, man. Food is medicine. It's tough to say if it is indeed. It is pleasurable. It is pleasurable.
yeah.
I can't deny that.
Because,
But
but if you think about it, even though food is medicine and food can also be pleasure, is the two sides of the same coin. You know what I mean? Like,
or
like
a double-edged sword.
it doesn't. You know what? But it doesn't mean like you can't enjoy what you're eating, and it could also be beneficial to you as well. You could chef
Bingo.
up
I
you could
love
you
it.
could
I
chef,
love it.
you could chef up a meal that's 100% healthy. You don't have any real carbs in there. You don't have any real sugars in there. That's gonna be beneficial for you, and it could taste amazing, and it could
Yeah.
be better than an orgasm. But
Hey, yes, it's good when that's the case. And look, I
yeah,
think you just absolutely nailed it. So I can get behind that all day long. I guess I just see so many food logs every day, every week. I mean, hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands of food logs that I evaluate, and I'm shocked that people are literally like, cracking the vein, man. Like it's like sugar, 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 sugar. And what happens is I gotta like, yeah, if I took a step back and I went and made you my what we call sparkly Brussels around here, because nobody likes
yeah,
Brussels sprouts. So you got to put an adjective with it. Sparkly Brussels sprouts. And so we do onions, bacon, and shredded Brussels with some good, salt, pepper, garlic. And oh my gosh, you caramelize the onions, you caramelize the bacon in while you're cooking the Brussels, and they're shredded. Oh yeah, it's legit. I've never taken it to a party and it not be a hit, because it doesn't look as intimidating as a Brussels sprout because we shred it. Everybody loves bacon, and onions
Yep.
are a great, food that is a part of all, dishes. So you're 100% accurate. Like if you put steak and veggies, steak, potato, you create a good, robust, rich, dense diet, then yeah, you could have a party in your mouth.
Yeah, and also too, like, and I love America. I was born here, but also being a first generation immigrant, I've had the pleasure of traveling back to my parents' country and enjoying the food there. And what I've noticed that, and you probably traveled around and noticed it too, that the U.S. doesn't really have great food selection.
You mean
You know what I mean?
quality, or like what do you mean?
No, I meant quality. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the quality of food in this country is not what you think it would be for the powerhouse
For
that we
being
are.
American.
Yeah,
Yes.
but when you travel to like a second or third world country, you could taste how fresh the vegetables are. You could taste how fresh the meat is. And then when you go to like the corner store or a supermarket, it's not laid out the same either. You
Correct.
feel me? You have everything organic. You have everything that
What's
you
locally
need.
grown in season too.
Yeah.
Where
So
here we preserve everything. This is a good truth that we have to realize. You just kind of keeping this theme, right? We know sugar's bad, right? We know medications are being abused, and now we banned this stuff called DDT. You ever heard of it?
no, I've never heard of it.
DDT is basically like a pesticide, right? And a
Right.
pesticide kills bugs. So we ban this substance because it's so toxic to the nervous system of a human, or to anything that's mammal.
Yeah.
And so we export DDT to other countries who use it for pesticide, and then we import those products back into our country, and we import them early because it's got to make sure it's fresh enough when it arrives on our local grocery store shelves, for which we radiate it in order to bring it to ripe color.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
you're right. We have utterly destroyed our food supply in America, and we are living in what we call the empty harvest. There's a great book called The Empty Harvest by Mark Anderson and Bernard Ginseng, and it's a gray cover with this beautiful array bouquet of veggies and fruits, but there's no color. It's black and white. And you're
Yeah.
like, that's a weird color. Like, why would he take this bouquet of beauty and then black and white it? And the first 40 page tells you the soil for which it was grown in was toxic. They poisoned it before it got to the shelf. So it looks fresh, but it's really empty inside. Oh crap, man! So now we've even confused America on what real food is, and
Yeah.
then you get into portion control. And then when we're addicted, or they even bank on it in marketing, hey, I bet you can't eat just one. You heard that
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah, of course, because these companies are literally using like the top scientists in the country to, you know, I don't want to engineer how it tastes, the perfect balance of salt and sugar, so that way it hits your taste buds and it makes you always crave it.
Always crave it and never lose the law of diminishing returns, right? So like, if
Yep.
you eat a bucket of popcorn and you get the big refill at the movies, you can go back and get 2 or 3 buckets and you just keep pounding it, right? That and
Yeah.
a soda, that and a soda, that and a soda. Well, if you had 8 ounces or 10 ounces of meat cubes, like steak cut up, you wouldn't just keep going back and doing that. And that's because the fat content in protein in steaks, for example, has a natural satiety rate, or a natural stop the hunger cravings.
Yeah.
And once that crosses over and stimulates your ghrelin and leptin cycles, you start these other digestive hormones, you start to just go, I'm not hungry anymore. So fat will stop you from over consuming. So even if you overindulge in olive oil, right? Supposedly healthy, right? Well, if you
Yeah.
overindulge, it'll make you sick. And
True.
so, like you said, everything's in moderation. But interestingly about fat in and of itself has no impact on insulin, which is a diabetic hormone for blood sugar control. And people are overconsumed or afraid of fat because, America has marketed that fat's the devil and it'll make you fat, and nobody wants to be fat. As we talked about earlier, that's a hurtful word.
Yep.
And so, but then when you're not putting in satisfying foods, proteins and fats and healthy, dense, rich, nutrient, mineral foods into the system, what winds up happening is you're freaking hungry all the time. And
Always.
what are you going to crave?
Uh,
Carbohydrates,
Yep. You're
bread,
gonna get yourself a little
cereal.
snack. You're gonna get yourself some chips. No,
Yes.
I get it. I get it, man. And it's like the thing about it is like food education. Well, at least when I grew up in the '90s, so food education was horrible because you had greens at the bottom. Then I think it was like meats, dairy. They had like very little sections for like fruits and veggies and all this other stuff. They had them there, but it wasn't like emphasized, or it wasn't
Right.
like the base of the base of the pyramid. But
Always, always teach people like on that, statement, like, you know, you should eat 2 vegetables for 1 fruit, because going back to your moderation statement, fruit is only the sugar in fruit, known as fructose or fructose, depending on how you say it, is only processed via the liver. So what's happening in today's age in my field is we're seeing a lot of non-alcoholic cirrhosis. That's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Well, when we think of fatty liver, we think of an alcoholic,
yeah,
but you can have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease due to high fructose corn syrup, which is a processed sugar in most everything sauce wise. And you can have it's in sodas, it's in dressings, it's in darn near, it's in almost everything sauce wise. But then if you overconsume fruit, which most people are overconsuming fruit, that's a huge impact on the system. Whenever the liver has to do 1,700 other metabolic functions, everything from skin, hair, nails, to digestion, to excretion, to growth hormone recovery, to detox, to going to sleep at night and staying asleep at night, all these different things that it does. And now we're stressing it with too much fruit or preserves. And so it's just interesting. Like, we get things out of moderation, and we just have to remember, oh my gosh, you're right. He just said protein is good. It's got a natural stop rate. You're not going to overindulge. Fat is going to definitely control your, intake. And we need to understand that vegetables to fruit should be 2 vegetables to 1 fruit in ratio throughout a day. And if we just practice that, and then in old Bible days, they would just take again, fresh milled bread, and they would use that as utensils. They didn't like gobble up loaves of bread. And then going back to what you said earlier, that the quality of American bread compared to other countries is not even, it's hands down different.
it's super different. And going back to just the high fructose corn syrup, high fructose and the fatty liver thing, do you think that has a correlation with a lot of people like trying trying to like lose weight, trying to get like on a better like quote unquote diet, but they're like trading a meal for like a smoothie or something of that nature?
So you think, so if the question is like, if they're going into a Smoothie King and getting a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
smoothie and that's healthy, right? Or a Jamba Juice or something.
Yeah.
So when we go to a lot of like, if you're into protein bars or if you're into shakes from these types of places, most of the time they are using artificial sugars. So they would call it turbinado, or they would call it, maybe they even do a low sugar using aspartame, which is the blue packets on our table,
Yeah.
otherwise known as NutraSweet, right? Or the yellow packets, sucralose. And you start seeing these artificial sugars, the pink stuff, the blue stuff, the yellow stuff that's on our dinner tables at restaurants. When they start using those types of things, those are known neurotoxins. And so, yes, there's no high fructose corn syrup, but artificial sugars are neurologically poisonous. They are known poisons and neurotoxins. And when you consume high fructose corn syrup that destroys your liver, that is your filter, and then you put these fake sugars on top of that, it's a recipe for disaster. So most of the time you go and use these smoothies as a healthy option, but they're too heavy on the fruit, too heavy on the turbinado, too heavy on, the synthetic ingredients, synthetic meaning fake. And then we're basically got a fake food source that we're addicted to because it's another form of sugar.
I get you on that. I get you on that. So,
So
no, you were saying?
unfortunately, smoothies can get us in trouble. We really have to know where we're getting our smoothies from.
Sure on that. And make sure they don't put those Splenda or any artificial sugars in there. Like if you like the one good thing about New York when it comes to like smoothies and stuff like that is that you could go to like your local bodega or you could go to like your local deli and they'll make it right there from like all the fruits and they really won't add like artificial sugars to it. But
Yeah.
yet again, when you go to like chain stores like Jamba Juice or any other spot that does like smoothies, I'll throw McDonald's in there because they offer it. When they do that, that's a lot more processed than like your local grocery store or whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, so here's the deal. Just a funny thing I always like to tell patients, like if the fastest way to the pearly gates is through the golden arches, because they sell nothing but fake food. Sorry about that.
That's 100% real. The facts.
So, but anyway, what I would say is when I look at what you just said is when I go on a cruise ship, they have a juice bar at the massage area and the exercise gym, and they will make fresh squeezed juice. You see them freshly squeezing whatever you're asking for. It could be beets and celery and half an apple or whatever. You can kind of even tailor make it. But when you go to the bar, they're making you a margarita or a pina colada or a strawberry daiquiri out of a carton. So I asked the guy, I said, "Hey, can I see the back of that carton real quick?" And I looked at it and oh my gosh, dude, there was like 4 different types of processed sugars, corn solids and corn syrups and high fructose corn syrup. And I mean, it was chalked with every chemical version of sweet that would destroy a person's liver. So you're getting set up for a good time, but at the expense of poisoning your liver. So I'm all about a good time, but understand that, on one side of the ship, man, you can get this sweet drink that is chalked with poison upon poison upon poison. And then on this other, like you said, if you go to a place that's a box store or a chain, typically you get garbage. If you go to somewhere that's kind of like a local barista type place that kind of takes pride in what they're serving, they want you to come back and you're supporting the local guy, the local biz, and they are making you a high quality substance. And that's solid.
No, that's definitely true. And I think that we as like a whole country, we don't have enough of that, or we're just like just choosing the quick and easy option when it comes to like feeding ourselves. You know what I mean? Like you have whole families that they know nothing but fast food. You know?
Yes. And so I'm always gentle in that conversations. I don't want people to ever walk away from a conversation like this and go, "Man, he's too extreme. Like, no fast food ever." And the reality is, dude, we go to Chipotle, like we just pick places where we can do better. Like I call it good, better, best, right? And so when people are on the wellness journey, I remember I used to so I'm not a big I don't do carbs very much. I'm actually very carnivore at this point in time in my career. I'm 21 years in. So I've evolved through a lot of diets. I've known about carnivore for 10 years, but I wasn't ready until about a year and a half ago. So I've been on this experiment and I'm doing all kinds of cool blood tests with it, blood sugar tests with it.
I definitely want you to explain what carnivore is because I've heard it and like I know very little of it. So I definitely want you to like break that down for us too.
Yeah, of course. So, but I would never come in and start you on a carnivore diet if you didn't know what it was, because it's really extreme. And like I mentioned earlier, if I got you to go off of sugar for the first 3 days, you'd be fine, but then it's like crazy
Yeah.
feelings and chaos in your body, and that's detox from that point forward. And so teaching people process one step. We're always moving forward in process. And if you do have metabolic symptoms or disease diagnoses, yes, you may need to be a little bit more extreme, or at least open-minded to changing some things. I mean, I had this one girl come in today who's struggling with depression. Well, we got her depression about 50% better right now. We're not all the way there yet, but she's coming around. She's 16 years old. And I told her today, I said, and she's doing super well, seriously, compared to where she was. And patients have symptom amnesia all the time. They forget how bad they felt when they first came in, and they're doing so much better, but they're not where they fully think they ought to be yet. So they get a little
Yeah.
discouraged. So encouraging. And I was like, okay, well, let's just look at your water intake. So her water intake was low. And I said, what if we could drink a little bit more water, and we just put some electrolytes in it that's sweet, that's, or that, something that's fun. Would you do that? She goes, oh, if I drink another cup of water, I'm going to just vomit. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. If you knew water is this next simplest thing that you can change, which, by the way, there's a great book, You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. There's another great book, Your Body's Many Cries for Water. These two medical doctors didn't even know each other. They went around, and all they did was treat everything from high blood pressure to acid reflux to high cholesterol to dementia to, skin rashes to allergies to chronic illness, whatever, with water. And they
Yeah.
fixed everything.
And
And
the
it was
craziest thing about it is that people usually don't know how dehydrated they really are, and
bingo.
how much like water really affects you. Like, for instance, like adult acne, right? Simple cure: drink more water. It's
Yeah.
your
Because
it.
you're pooping out of your skin.
Yup.
I mean, essentially, that's what it is. And that is, and most people don't realize that their health issues are in their gut. So all life starts and stops at the cellular level, and nutrition drives it all. That means the gut is critical. So if the gut is clogged up and jammed up and sick, so is your skin. Your skin is a mirror image of your digestive tract. And so helping people recognize that if you eat clean, you hydrate well, you're more 70% of the time, I call it the 70-30 rule. And then you take 30% off by, some one-offs, and you're still moving forward 40%. That'll work. That'll get you places. And you can still enjoy life with friends, family, and loved ones, and not feel like you're the kind of no fun, cousin. You know what I mean? And,
I
and
feel you.
so, and so at the end of the day, when I take people through diets, I'm looking for 1 degree of change. So for all of our listeners, like, just take one thing that we've talked about today. It could be the artificial sugars, the diet sodas, right? Pull that out for 2 weeks and just see how you feel. I've seen wheelchair bound people get up and walk after 30 days of being off of artificial sugars.
I believe
No
it.
word to lie. I have seen people on 8 medications that were psychiatric medications drop their medications in 45 days down to 3, just by hydrating them well and getting them off of the top 4 most common food allergies: wheat, dairy, corn, soy. So I'm amazed too about the simplicity of what I'm saying and the power that it carries. But every one of us is a little bit individual. So you've got to be willing to be kind of like your own private eye detective and learn your body and how it's responding, because where you're at and where I'm 21 years into a health game, right? And so everybody starts where they start. I always say, when's the best time to plant an oak tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant an oak tree? Today.
Yup.
And so I didn't arrive at carnivore overnight, although I've known about it a long time and I've helped patients go through it. But what really spurred me on is I had 7 patients go on carnivore a year and a half ago, and their results were so crazy impressive. I was like, what the heck? All right, fine. I'm not
That,
going to ask
that's
a
another. That's another thing I heard. Like the results are insane. Like a lot of like people who had like certain diseases, like they were cured of it. Like certain afflictions they had
depression,
were like,
high blood pressure,
yeah,
arthritis, autoimmunity of all kinds, thyroid disruption, hormone hot flashes, I had this girl come in today. Her and her husband, they're not the best patients in the world. Okay. I mean, I'll just be honest. They're not. However, he went on this little carnivore binge and she followed. And all of a sudden, she has no more foot pain, no more hip pain, no more neck pain. And she's got a sit down accounting job. And I'm like, that's awesome. And they kind of do the 70-30 rule at this point. And even at the 70-30 rule, where there's 70% carnivore, 30% kind of off base a little bit, eating veggies and starches and controlling some of the inflammation that they put in, her body can keep up. And even today, her body adjusts well, moves well, the joints don't hurt, there's inflammation is strategically low. And she's still in some of her blood tests show inflammation. So she's not done, she's in process, but she's still seeing change and able to feel like a human. And she dances 3 times a week. Not that kind of dancing, but like just
roomies,
right?
don't get the wrong ideas.
Right. Don't get the wrong idea, folks. Come on. I know it's getting late, but no, just kidding. But at the end of the day, it's just fascinating. So here's carnivore in a nutshell. Okay. Anything with a face. You can have chicken, fish, turkey, eggs, beef, lamb. And I know eggs technically don't have a face, but they come from an animal that has a face. So chicken, fish, turkey, eggs, beef, lamb, and fish and shrimp, seafoods. Okay. So anything it's got a mother or a father. And so if you eat these foods only, this is a version of carnivore. Or you can take it up a notch and do what's called the lion's diet, which is a more pure carnivore, which is essentially eating just beef, just lamb, just salt and pepper and water. That's all you get. So that would be the extreme of it. So for me, for 100 days straight, I did the lion diet, which is I did beef, lamb, salt, pepper, garlic, and water. That was it. And I watched my blood work for the whole 100 days, blown away. Well, for me, it didn't really change much, but it didn't change much. My cholesterol didn't go up. If anything, my immune system got stronger. But I did go through about 45 days of my body just getting clearer and clearer, my skin more radiant, my muscles more lean, and my recovery better than ever. And it was like really cool to kind of see the metamorphosis that transpired by putting nothing but rich proteins in. And remember, the animals are eating vegetables, right? They're eating vegetation, and I'm eating the animal. So I went down that trail, and so I'd run my blood work every 100 days, and essentially I would eat beef for breakfast, lamb mid-morning. I would have lamb patties mid-afternoon. Then I would put in a sirloin in the later afternoon, and then I would have like brisket, because I love brisket, as my 6th meal at about 6 to 7 ounces per meal throughout my day. So the rule is you can eat 1 meal a day or you can eat 6 meals a day, because technically if you're hungry on a carnivore diet, eat more meat. It's that simple. And people go, you can overindulge. Well, you understand too, I'm eating about 3,000 calories a day, but I also train pretty well too. If you follow any of my work at drchapawellness.com, you would see that I do exercises that are club bell, kettlebell, body work exercises. And I'm very into exercise and mobility and neural function and functionally fit motion and things like that. And so I like biohacking. But interesting thing about carnivore, if you have symptoms and you've tried everything and nothing works, it's sugar is still feeding enough yeast and enough parasites that's sabotaging your body from moving forward. So you have to kill that down and burn that out. And once you pull down the bioburden, which carnivore will starve that out. And when you're hungry, you can just eat more meat. And then you start doing our therapy plans to kill off bugs and flush them out of the body. Your body becomes a new vessel, and your body's ability to recover at the joint capsule level, at the brain level, at the gut level, it is unbelievable. Neurotransmitters, brain function, heart disease goes away. I mean, I'm telling you, AFib, I've seen all kinds. And I know I can't treat, I can't cure, I can't diagnose anything. So I'm not, this is all for, experimental purposes only, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, in my clinical laboratory, in my practice, I am truly amazed when I watch blood numbers improve. I'm watching symptom patterns improve. I'm watching sleep improve. And I'm watching emotions change. I'm watching people that couldn't dance now start dancing and feeling like they have life in their joints and bones again. Dude, that's awesome.
It's
And I'm talking,
amazing. It's amazing because it's like, yet again, and this is going back to our main point that we're over medicated. The food quality isn't the best here, and it's amazing to see what happens when you start taking out the sugars, when you start eating well, when you start,
1 degree of change, just
yeah,
1 degree.
1 degree. It's amazing how fast our body adapts and recovers just through that. It's amazing. And I know that you're also a specialist on detoxing. Like, can you like run us through like a process of detoxing where like does everybody detox a little different and all that?
Well, so I will say this. So diet, like if you go on a no sugar diet, your body will start doing what's called Herxheimer reactions. Those are your detox symptoms. That's
Mhm.
yeast dying off, parasites dying off. And when they die off, they spill metals and chemicals and stuff that they were chelating for you. So it's very fascinating. The body works synergistically with bugs. And so your body essentially subcontracts labor from parasites and yeast. So they're not all like evil, right? They actually have a purpose, and they do this thing called they soak up or they chelate things that you can't get rid of. So things that you and me and we can't get rid of are toxins. So toxins by definition is just anything your body can't use.
Right.
So when I put people through a detox, I'm not necessarily, working with heroin or coke addicts or alcoholic, issues. What I'm working on is this toxic buildup that is now laced inside a fat cell. A fat cell can swell up 7 times the size of normal. That is
Mhm.
what you're seeing if you're feeling overweight or dealing with weight issues or metabolic issues. That is you're using a secure way of cleansing the body to help it move forward and protect the vessel from dying off.
Yeah.
The second thing a toxin does can be stored in the brain. And so if it gets stored in the brain, it messes up your quarterback, right? So, and then the last place your body stores toxins primarily is in the joints. And that's why people get joint pain. That's why people have arthritises, or I like to call arthrongus, because there's nothing rightus about it. You know what I mean?
That's facts.
Straight up. And so detoxification is not like extreme always, although it can be extreme. And so when I take people through a detox, it could be as simple as pulling dairy off the diet and the body go through a dairy flush, which means lymphatics are going to drop all kinds of trash. They might get stinky armpits. They might get loose stools for a few days just by peeling off, a food allergy. But typically true Dr. Chapa detox is, and if you go to drchopawells.com, I got a whole program on this. We got a master's class on this. We've got a whole protocol to teach people how to make these 1 degrees of change. And we'd love for people to get involved in that. But essentially we're stimulating the liver. We're stimulating the cells to recognize the toxins are there, and then to create a protocol through kidney, liver, blood, brain, and bowel to transit this trash out of the body, and to keep your mineral levels up so that you actually maintain the results on the backside. So we remineralize the patient, we stabilize the blood sugar, we pull off these metals, chemicals, and debris, which is glyphosates, which is Roundup Ready garbage in your bread, right? It's
Yeah.
MSG in your spices. It's high fructose corn syrup in your sauces. It's artificial sugars in your cola. I mean, there's all kinds of different toxins we're getting rid of just from keeping the conversation diet, but we're teaching people what to eat, how to take nutrients to replenish deficiency, and then watch the body begin to unfold what it has always been. And this is what we see just through this 21-day detox, or even I could even modify it to 10-day detoxes. And I'm fascinated always that people will feel 10 years younger. People will have more mental clarity. They'll feel less inflamed. They'll lose weight, and they'll feel like their whole blood chemistry changes. If they did a cholesterol panel in the beginning and the end, blood chemistry changes. You will see a shift in most all blood numbers. And I'm not going to say every blood number, because again,
Yeah.
some people might have beyond 5 medications already. And so those people, maybe they don't get as big of a result the first time, but maybe the third or fourth time they do it. So I look at detox like this. If you're not detoxing in the 21st century, you're missing a huge piece of your healthcare plan. So I'm always encouraging people to detox every quarter or every 6 months. And we do 10-day, 21-day, and sometimes even as short as a 5-day or a 3-day, depending on what people can do. Because I got a lot of people that travel and the world travelers and they're busy and they don't have time. But hey, I'll meet you where you're at and I'll teach you how to streamline it. And what will happen over the course of about 9 months, your body flips a switch and the body actually starts helping you do this stuff. You get that healthy perpetuating motion and all of a sudden you start winning, and that's legit.
No, I get you on that. And you know what? You're absolutely correct because I would say that, in modern society and especially in 2026, what we consume, is riddled with heavy metals. And now this whole microplastic thing that everybody is, in a frantic about. Because I heard that like in a month we eat like about a credit card size worth of plastic or something of that nature
Yeah,
because of
it's
like the utensils and stuff.
and they're actually called forever chemicals. These are
Yeah.
chemicals that our body doesn't really know how to break down well, and so it stores it. And so, like, if the body freaks out and goes, "Dude, I don't have time to mess with that," plus everything else it's got to do in a day. Like your liver has 1,700 jobs that it does every day. 1,700.
Yeah.
So it's busy. And so when we are voluntarily breathing in toxins, rubbing toxins on our body, bathing in toxins, brushing our teeth with toxins, putting underarm toxins, we are essentially, creating a massive mess that our body has to filter and deal with regularly. And
Okay.
so we have created a need for detoxification. So I'm always encouraging people, if you're not detoxing in the 21st century, you are missing a huge piece of your healthcare plan. And to your point, if you're eating margarine, which is butter spreads, you are essentially eating plastic. And Franken foods, fake foods, make believe food leads to make believe health. And you can't expect to be healthy if you're eating that stuff. And that's a hard truth, man. And I don't want people to feel, again, no shame, nothing like that at all. I hope it's all falls on good ground, good soil, that I'm educating people to realize it's your health, it's your choice. And you can make a difference in where you're at currently if you choose to take life by the horns and eat better food, better quality nutrients, and get a little educated. 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, and 21 years down the road, you'll be a fanatic like myself.
No, it's the truth though, because like nowadays, like we have to worry about that, and especially that, excuse me, I'm seeing that like people from like my generation and younger, you know, well, Gen X, well, yeah, Gen X, millennials, Gen Alpha and Gen Z, they're now more self conscious about what we're putting into our bodies now that we have all this information at our disposal. And the craziest thing about it is like what I'm seeing is that even though there's a shift in the information game, like people are more aware of it, there's not a shift in action where people are actually saying, you know what, we don't want these forever chemicals in our products. We don't want, our foods not to be a little bit more organic or not use certain pesticides or not be like genetically modified.
So, and again, you're tapping into that part again, that people never do what they want to do. They only do what they know how to do. And most disease processes, most symptom that people deal with are all what we call familiar, not genetic. So if you've been diagnosed with cholesterol, you can't blame your parents. You just followed the high cholesterol recipe. So I always tell people, if you make chocolate chip cookies, you followed a chocolate chip cookie recipe. If you follow a sugar cookie recipe, you should get sugar cookies. And so it'd be weird if you got anything else, right? And so
True.
the same with health. If you follow a diabetic diet or a heart disease diet, then you're going to get diabetes and heart disease. And I think we have confused our American people. We've confused, frankly, the world on what real food is. But guys, if it has a mother or a father, if it grows out of the ground or off a tree, and you can pronounce it, then it oftentimes is a better first choice. And so then we start going, when you look at labels and you see all these weird chemical names and you go, what in the world is flame? You know what I mean? It might
Dead
that
ass.
should make you nervous. And then that's the kind of stuff you got to start recognizing is if you can't pronounce it, or if it has a label, maybe you shouldn't consume it as often. And that's where we get into the, just teaching people some fundamental basics. And it's not that you can't ever, it kind of goes back to that 70-30 rule, is making sure people understand that there is a game to play and you just got to start somewhere. And the trick is consistency. And the way I find consistency is through community. So, drchopwellness.com, like we have a community. We're building wellness warriors that want to make a difference for themselves, for their families, and teach them these hard truths and help them understand where to start. And once people get a little data and a little excitement and a little like hope that they can make these changes and make them last, oh, it's a game changer, man. It's a game
I
changer.
feel
I
you.
get excited about it.
I feel you. I feel you. And what I want to know, what's your opinion on fasting? Because
Ah,
I've never been a faster, but I have a couple of friends who like do intermittent fasting here and there. So I just want to know like what are like the benefits of it, and like is it good to fast? Is it not good to fast? Is it like iffy? You got what I mean?
yeah, yeah. So just going back to your conversation earlier about like, moderation. So I'm currently right this second 26 hours into a fast. And so once a week, I do a 24-hour fast. Sometimes it's a 20-hour fast. So between 20 and 24 hours. The only reason it's 26 is right now is because I'm hanging out with you. And so
And I
I'll
appreciate it.
probably, yeah. But this just happened to fall on my fasting day. So I fast from 7 p.m. Tuesday night to 7 p.m. Wednesday night, typically. And so what happens is 1 day of fasting, 3 days of fasting, 21 days of fasting is something very extreme. I came up with this idea because I have enough patients that are dealing with really heavy hitting diagnoses. And when you have these heavy hitting diagnoses that scare people, people have asked me, well, what would you do, Dr. Chapa? I say, well, I'd probably fast for 30 days. I'd probably go on just a water fast, and I would not eat any major calories. I'd force my body into a state of autophagy. Autophagy is your body going and eating old, worn out zombie cells, cells that have outlasted their useful life in your body, but your body's using as a placeholder. But they're spewing out contents of sludge, and they're like dirty little slugs. They just worn out. They need to be replaced. But your body doesn't have the basis to do it. They get out of control. They replicate. They turn into things that we don't want, the big C word. So what happens is when I come, after the fasting conversation, again, most people aren't 20 years into their journey, so they can't even make it 10 hours without fasting. I mean, that means they can't go 10 hours without putting food in their mouth. So I would start most people in an intermittent fasting phase. But at the end of the day, where I'm sitting is I do have a veteran level patients also that I will take into advanced care. So I have 3 phases of care in respect to fasting processes that they can rhythmically do weekly and monthly. And it's very powerful. It's very beneficial. It's very spiritual. It's very enlightening. And it's very, very, and frankly, fun, because when you start taking the bull by the horns, like one of the fruits of the spirit out of my favorite book, the Bible, is self-control. And when you start having self-control, you start controlling your own health, you start making an impact in others around you because you don't feel bad. When your joints hurt, when your head hurts, when your blood pressure's off the chain, when your heart's beating out of your chest, people panic and they self-implode. They think about only themselves. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And reality is if I can get a person feeling so good, guess what's going to happen? They're going to love their neighbor. They're going to think about others first. They're going to be vulnerable. They're going to be enduring the test of time, love. And it's a powerful, awesome, place to be. When you feel good, you perform good. And when you're sick, it's unfortunate and it's unnecessary. And I'm trying to wake people up. So fasting is another great tool. And wherever you start, if it's a 10-hour 14-hour fast, great. If it's a 16-8, great. If it's a 24, whatever, like start playing with these ideas, and it's 1 degree of change, and you will start seeing what your body's made of. And you'll go, oh my gosh, just like going to the gym. You don't get strong overnight. You got to build it up.
Absolutely don't.
And this is biochemical gym matrix, right? We got to go to the biochemical gym and train the mind, train the gut, train the body, learn to feel that emptiness and to embrace it and not, and whine about it, so to speak, because it's real. But remember, it's the stinking bugs, bro, that are craving and that make it hard for people to say no. It's the stinking chemicals that you're addicted to that drive you back to your pit of despair. And so a community helps, a detox is absolutely imperative, and consistency along the journey, day in and day out, is the key.
I feel you. I feel you. And Dr. Chapa, before we exit out, I always ask all my guests this. Do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, a message to the roomies before we go?
Man, roomies, number one, thanks for tuning in. You being willing to sit through a program with me, I hope is enlightening, inspiring, and exciting, and just, you're teasing the mind that it's possible. I want people to know that they're designed by God. That, I've mentioned the Bible many times tonight. I'm a firm believer that Christ is the way, the truth, and life, man. And I want people to know where their true help comes from. I do this work because I want people to grow in who they are spiritually and who they are in Christ, because that's the end game. For me, I want people to recognize that they don't have to suffer with symptoms any longer. And God gave us a brain and he expects us to use it. And we can't just take the modern narrative of the day. We have to take the bull by the horns and own our health. We have to own our situation and go, you know what? If I got high blood pressure, if I got high cholesterol, if I got, brain disorders, allergies, whatever, belly pain, digestive constipation, I need to take some ownership and be responsible for where my life is right now. I got to give myself a checkup from the neck up, so to speak. So thank you, roomies. I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful, blessed, amazing day, week, month, year, life. And I can't wait to see you in the best way possible, your best form.
And roomies, remember, it's never too late to start your health journey. And like Dr. Chapa said, 1 degree at a time. With that,
1 degree at a time.
peace out.
Peace out.